Oh, hi there. I've been traveling. I've been up in Anchorage for a few days now, and I didn't get into social media at all while I was there. I walked around. I read a really good book. Saw my ophthalmologist, OPHTH ophthalmologist. Yeah, the lady who cut my eyes open and replaced the lenses last month. Anyway, I went up there for a follow-up appointment, and when I came back, I logged into the YouTube account, and I was really surprised at the amount of comments and the content of those comments. I was intending to upload the speeches portion of it to my other channel, my other channel, not Cruising Lealea, and then just link it, because I realized that a lot of our subscribers, especially those who do not live in the United States, were a little upset. We got some comments. People let us know they didn't like the content. Well, I'm sorry about that. That's what the camera saw, and that's what we showed you. That's what's happening here on Mitkoff Island. And the second half, I talked this over with Laura because I wasn't going to do it, but she said, go ahead and show them. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. What's coming up next is completely unedited, directly out of the camera. It chops from shot to shot. I apologize for that, but I didn't want to alter it in any way. This is just what Laura recorded from the camera, so it's a little uneven, not edited at all. Let's see, trigger warning. I know some people will be upset. At the 3-minute 58-second mark after the interviews, we join the singing of the national anthem of the United States of America in progress. So if you don't want to hear that, and you don't want to see the faces of the crowd singing along, just skip forward to about the, 4-minute and 50-second mark, something like that, and it'll all be over. Of course, if you don't want to listen to the national anthem, you probably don't want to listen to the speeches either, so there you go. But that's the warning. People just saying what they think. We didn't chop it up, we didn't edit it, we didn't add anything, we didn't subtract anything, except for this little introduction that I'm recording now. So there's your warning, 3 minutes 58 seconds, they're going to start singing the Star Spangled Banner. You have been warned.
All right. Hi, how's it going?
Good.
And what's your first name?
My name's Helmi.
Hi, Helmi. And who's this?
This is Bodhi.
Hi, Bodhi.
Yeah.
All right. So what brings you out today? Did you know this was happening yesterday?
We did. We came out to support. So just freedom to make your own personal choices. And we actually just moved here from Whitehorse. My son he's at 100% Canadian. He was born in Canada. And so we're here to fight for his rights and our rights too.
And I think you're going to be speaking today, right?
My husband is.
Okay, so you guys just moved back here, but you were from Petersburg originally,
yes,
correct?
I am.
And so what kind of things did you see going on there that made you move back here?
When we lived there, for the couple months before we moved, all the mandates and the vaccine passports and everything went into place, so it literally shut us out for the 2 months before we moved. We couldn't go into our daughter's school. The only place we could go is a grocery store, and if we got hurt was a hospital. We literally couldn't go anywhere else. And so all of our freedoms got taken away. And so we experienced that life, and we just refused to have it happen again.
And so, of course, coming out in support of that not happening here.
Yes. Yes.
So you said restrictions to medical care, or?
Not medical care, but we couldn't go into anywhere they didn't deem essential, and the only places deemed essential is the grocery store and the hospital.
Okay.
So
and
those are the 2 places we were
restricted
allowed to
to stay at home?
Not to stay we could go outside and be in public, but we couldn't go anywhere indoors. We couldn't go to museums, restaurants, clothing stores, libraries. We just couldn't go anywhere except for the grocery store and hospital to go inside.
Yeah. And so you're relieved to be back to Petersburg?
Yes, it feels wonderful to be back.
And so a little disappointing maybe to think that they might be thinking about trying to do something like that here, or do you see that possibility?
Well, seeing all the support here, I'm not too worried about it really going that way, but it's just more about uniting everyone because I mean, we're not all that different. Everyone wants the freedom to make the right choices for themselves.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what it's all about, is uniting everyone and, you know, putting the division aside.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I lived in Canada for about, let's see, from the age of 14 to 30. I was living in Victoria.
Okay.
And so
It's a beautiful country.
It
and
is,
we've met
isn't
some
it?
really great people.
You got to
up there.
wonder when the Canadians actually stand up and say enough is enough, how
was
much
amazing.
it took.
Yeah.
so-
Oh yeah, that's why I was like, if Canadians can do it, yeah, living there. I mean, we lived there for a short time, only about 2 years, and
Yeah.
so we only got a little taste of it.
Yeah.
But seeing how, because it's just different there.
Oh, yeah. Completely different mentality.
Yeah, and so seeing that, you're like, all right, like if the Canadians can do it, the rest of the world can do it.
Yeah.
So
Amen to
it's
that.
amazing.
All right. Well, have fun for the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Is that better? Okay. Was Cookie's over by the Bushman Park shelter?
Cookies.
This girl is going to sing the Star Spangled Banner, and she wants us to sing along with her. Right.
We see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glow, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Hello, French minority! Are you holding unacceptable views today? You are absolutely, but it's the new acceptable because it's about liberty. When I heard that Justin Trudeau had labeled the Canadian truckers in such a way, I immediately thought of one of my favorite lines from Princess Bride. You can quote it with me if you want. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. My name is Michelle Funt, and I want to officially welcome you to the Petersburg version of Freedom Convoy 2022. We are here to show that we stand with the Canadian truckers who are currently occupying Ottawa in an attempt to force their government to recognize their personal rights and to drop the mandates. We also want to note our support for a future American convoy starting March 1st, because our U.S. government needs this same, shall we say, encouragement. You may not have heard that there are several convoys that are going on in Alaska today. So much of what we have learned of the Canadian convoy is not through those news sources that we used to rely upon. We encourage you to search for those individuals who are reporting about the convoy accurately. In the same way, we are not here to raise money for the convoy, as we know that you can find those opportunities online should you choose to do so, and should they become available again. We are interested in supporting this wonderful fringe minority that we call our community. For to assert liberty in Petersburg is to assert liberty for all men. In an effort to do that, we have some uncensored, uncanceled speakers for you today. Please allow me to introduce to you a new member of our community who has ties to Petersburg through his marriage to one of the daughters who once lived on Five Daughters Hill. Please welcome the husband of our own Helmy Woolhater Clark, Joel Clark.
Thank you.
I haven't accepted him yet, but he's here from the back.
It's legal.
Forgot about that.
Thank you for welcoming us to your guys' community. Like she said, here with my wife Helmy and my daughter Everly and my son Bodie and my in-laws here, Kurt and Sherry. And we're grateful to be welcomed into this community and proud to be part of this. It's a breath of fresh air. Really, we came from Whitehorse before this, and we experienced in the height of the pandemic the stripping away of our freedoms to a point where it was pretty much impossible to function in society. You know, we couldn't go anywhere other than the grocery store. Or, you know, if it was critical, the hospital. I had a friend turned away from the hospital for a torn bicep because he only had one shot. But, you know, we weren't even allowed in my daughter's school. We couldn't go to the museum, into the aquatic center, anywhere, really. So we knew we needed to get out of there ASAP and find a community of like-minded individuals, and here we are today. So thanks for being brave and standing up for your freedoms, for our freedoms, really. Because today the country's more divided than it's ever been. The world's more divided than it's ever been. And we need unity and empathy. And we need to put aside our differences. And if we could, regardless of our political affiliation, our race, our vaxxed, unvaxxed, masked, unmasked, it doesn't really matter what differences or divisions that we've been placed in by those that control the mainstream media and politics. We all want the same thing, I think. Freedom, obviously. Justice, respect, and a fair payback on our energies we put into life, right? But it's hard to see the grand scope of the problem when we're divided into such small categories. So currently we have well, I'm not going to get into that, actually.
Doing good. Wrap her up.
I'm about to wrap it up here.
You know, I probably will. Yeah, let Rob do it. He's been here a while.
If we think back about 9/11, right? That was a time in the country when we all came together and showed support for one another. The whole world showed support for the United States. But through years of complacency, we've lost that. So I think today we're here to show unity, and we have some momentum, and we need to bring this into tomorrow and into the years to come and take back our freedoms and get back to the point where we were before all this, and show our kids, teach our kids the lessons that change only happens through action.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Next, I'd like to introduce you to a man born and bred a Petersburgian. He's a Laurel Viking, a patriot, well-loved by his family, friends, and his former students. Please welcome Rob Schwartz.
Wow. All the way around the loop, I was listening to Bad Company. There's an American band, Bad Company, and I'm surrounded by Bad Company here. What a deplorable bunch. Oh my gosh. I feel so good though. Anyway, people are wired different. They're wired agreeable. Some of us are a little more disagreeable. I know I'm looking out there, I see people that have been brutally honest with me in the past, and that's exactly how they needed to be. Send me the message I needed at the time. I told a couple fellas when I was asked to write a speech that I looked up after a couple hours and there was 14 pages of, it looked like I puked up alphabet soup on the page. Had to get it concise. So here we go. Bear with me. We'll see where this ends up. Good day, everyone. What a crowd. In this historic moment, I can see why some people are so bothered by us. I can. For almost 2 years, when faced with almost certain death from apparently the most deadly disease ever known to mankind, we have not been afraid enough. We have not been compliant enough. We have not been obedient enough. We're too busy bucking the system, asking annoying questions, spouting off about fundamental truths, bloviating about God-given rights, those pesky rights like free speech, the right to assemble, the rights to privacy, the right to worship as we choose. Better close those churches down.
Amen.
This is not to mention the right to breathe freely or to raise our children and our grandchildren the way we see fit. Even better, let's separate families, isolate people, and let our elderly die alone and hopeless. How many of us have had to deal with that in the last few years? It's all right, I told myself I wouldn't curse. And then we have the audacity to even speak about natural immunity or herd immunity. We must be some kind of science deniers. I brought it up 2 years ago in April. You heard me on the radio. Oh no, I got so much for that. I'm a science denier. Anyway, after all, there's no money in natural immunity. There's no money there. Follow the money and see where it leads you. I get it. We are loathsome to some people, and I can see why they think we are. When I look at you, I look at my family, my friends, I look around at some other people I don't really know, but maybe someday. We are people who have not forgotten the history that led to our founding documents and the principles that were so clearly communicated within them. That's right. And it's the same history that led to war. We've had almost 2 years. Granted, they've been trying times. But by the time the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, they'd had 13 years. They'd had 13 years since the end of the French and Indian War. 13 years of oppression by the British government, trying to dominate them, get them to comply. And the more they used force, guess what? The more the colonists resisted. And they walked step by step by step into war. I'm not here to beat any war drums. None of us want that. We feel it. I just see those eyes out there. Some of us have that spark, but we don't want that. That is a horrendous thing. I'm here to remind you of what needs to happen, what actions need to be taken to prevent that horrendous act. Let me get back to this because I kind of lost my place there for a second.
Okay, bro.
Like some of our island brethren, I'm sure many colonists at that time were extremely bothered by the rebels in America. Why will they not just bend the knee to the king? A growing number of Americans no longer consider themselves loyal subjects of the crown. They would not obey. They would not comply. They would not submit. They were following their conscience and they were finding their courage. What a concept. We know the 4th of July story. In 1776, 56 Americans signed the Declaration of Independence and pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. And many of them paid dearly for it. Their houses were burned. Some were killed. They lost their families, but they had the courage to stand. But the document remains powerful, radical, and influential. Jefferson, in a very concise way, outlined our fundamental beliefs about government. And then he listed 27 grievances against the crown. Read it. It doesn't take long. I try to read it, once a month anyway. And they knew, as we know today, that a just government derives its power from the people, from us, from our consent, not Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci, the all-powerful, omnipotent dwarf lord of scientific knowledge, so far and beyond and above any temptation or corruption. I didn't trust him in the beginning. I never trusted him at all. And then I told a few people, follow the money. And they did. And they don't trust him either. Who would dare question his authority? Those founding fathers also knew that our rights are God-given rights. They are not granted to us by our borough assembly, who can dole them out and dole out our liberties at their will or as they see fit. They're God-given. Announcing their mandates from the safety of their computer screens and destroying our right to peaceful assembly. It's been a load of you-know-what for a while. And I'm so glad to see you taking a stand. No more. We also know, like Jefferson and his troubled friends, that governments, that just governments, are formed for one purpose and one purpose alone, and that is to protect the rights and liberties of the people. The purpose of government is not to pass oppressive emergency ordinances or enact mandates that grant immense power to unelected overseers, the emergency grand masters and commanders, who, with their superior powers of perception and situational awareness, can make much better decisions for us and for our families than we can. They think they can. I don't think so either. All right. Like Kurt said, I gotta wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. And when we question this, when we have the audacity to ask questions, if they let us through on the phone lines, they double down, triple down on their bull.
What?
On their bull. On their bull. Who can forget the talk from 2020? The city, in order to deal with all us troubled, resistant citizens, needed consequences with teeth. You remember that one? All right, one more page. One more page.
We love it, Rob. We got time, honey.
Thank you for your support and patience.
We got time.
The citizens of Petersburg will comply or else. My thought was, or else what? Can you ostracize us anymore? Shame us anymore? Ridicule us anymore? Bring it on, I got pretty thick skin. If they couldn't persuade us to obey, they'd put the hurt to us and our friends and our families, so we resisted some more. It takes me back to another magical time in September of 2020, the infamous emergency ordinance, written with the guidance of a California lawyer. Wow, you talk about overreach? You remember it as well as I do. What's the big deal? It's for the safety of all of us. Where is your compassion? Forced quarantines, forcibly closing schools, keeping us off our public streets and out of our harbors. You know, the same harbors we pay for? They were going to keep us out of those too. And my personal favorite, let's bring in outside law enforcement. You remember that one? Because I was pretty sure that Drew Arris and these guys were not going to shoot me down. But if they bring in the outside law enforcement, they have no relationship to us. They're not part of our community. That is an old device, thousands of years old. Oh, man. That was the extra layer in the already thick tyrannical cake we called our local government. It was highly reminiscent of the British occupation of Boston after the Tea Party. I wonder how that would have gone had that become a reality? Had they brought in outside law enforcement to threaten us? How would that have gone, fellas? I don't think it would have gone well. And yet I said before, I'm not here to beat a war drum, but when they paint us into a corner, what do they think's going to happen? What do they think's going to happen when they paint us into a corner? So that leaves us here today, together, in solidarity with our brothers and sisters worldwide who are also following their consciences, finding their courage, and saying enough is enough. And that's the problem for some people. Millions of people are standing up because we know our cause is just, and that to comply with tyranny, to obey unjust, immoral authority would make us traitors to ourselves, our families, our friends, and even our enemies. If we betray ourselves, we are feeding, strengthening, and emboldening an already ravenous and tyrannical wolf.
Right.
We are. We're part of the problem if we give in and comply. When this happens for enough time, the Hitlers, Stalins, and Maos of the world emerge with bared teeth. And I'm going to tell you what, hell follows with them. Right now, it's obedience and cowardice that continue to lead us down an increasingly darkened path, keeping masks in our kids. It's compliance and conformity that will lead us step by step into totalitarianism, enslavement, and despair. And that is why we resist today, tomorrow, and forever if necessary. When an individual disobeys authority, he's considered a dissident, and that is not a big deal. When a group of people stand together and resist in a public way, that is civil disobedience. We need to stand together.
Right. Amen.
When a non-compliant mass of people becomes widespread, the message is clear. We do not fear you. We will not obey you. You have no power over us. How do you like us now, Trudeau? Biden, Fauci, Soros, Gates, Schwab. Look into Schwab. It's not just the bald head and the weird German accent that freaks me out. It's actually the words that come out of his mouth that kind of freak me out. I am truly, sincerely grateful that we found our courage today. And I will pray intently that we can find it tomorrow and into the future, because the voice in my head tells me that this is far from over. Far from over. From now on, we must actively and courageously support each other. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless your family.
So many of you that I've talked to over the last weeks are tired of anyone threatening to assert mandates that infringe upon your rights to bodily autonomy or upon the rights of someone you know. Whether or not you are personally facing a daily masking, or whether or not pressure is being exerted directly upon you to vaccinate in order to keep your job, I think we can all sympathize with those who are in these situations. Tell me, do you think these mandates should stop? Yes! You have heard the quote by Edmund Burke, "The only thing for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." Well, he finished that speech with, "When bad men combine, the good must associate, else they will fall one by one. An unpitied sacrifice in a contemptible struggle." Now is the time for us to stand up. We need to stand up for ourselves. We need to stand up for our children and for our elderly. We need to stand up for our families and for our friends. We need to stand up for our community members and for our fellow U.S. citizens. And as you have all signified by being here today, we need to publicly stand up for the freedoms of men and women in other countries, such as our neighboring Canada. We need to stand together or we will fall. Several of your fellow community members have decided that they are ready to organize to see that these mandates go away for good. If you are like-minded and would like to know more about this local movement, then please pick up one of these small slips of paper before you leave. On this slip of paper, you will find an email address. Please email that email address with your name and some contact info, and we will try to get some info back to you. As we wrap up this event, I want to encourage you. Yes, you can. As we wrap up this event, I want to encourage you to reach out to your neighbors. I think that we have been isolated within our few miles of island that we need to start communicating more. We have so many stories to share. I believe that there is healing power in the telling of stories, both for the storyteller and the one who hears the story. Please tell your stories of what you've experienced over the last few years. For myself, my last few months have been filled with nursing myself and my 82-year-old mother through COVID, learning ever more about healthy living and about God's will for me during these times. I'd love to swap stories with you sometime and to hear your stories as well. I'll even listen to the lawyer jokes. Many of my fellow community members feel the same way. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for encouraging each other with this Freedom Convoy 2022.
And thank Michelle and Dana for organizing this. I don't know who else is involved, but thanks, gals. Gotta have those organizers, you know. Those rabble rousers.
Thank you. You guys all go over and get some cookies. There's some coffee, and I think there's hot chocolate. School board meets Tuesday at 6 p.m.